Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you here to the season finale for X3, running here at Abu Dhabi. I'm Insane Leader 13, your host. XRL X3 normally would be joining us, however, he has been called up for driver duty for today's event. We're looking currently at only 16 people showing up. It's not anticipated to be a very, very deep field. A lot of drivers have other things they need to do. However, all of your championship contenders are anticipated to show up here today. In the Mercedes team, XRL Snake is going to be representing them. For the Ferrari team, it's Smish and Tome. For the Red Bull team, it's Whippy and Torpedo. In the McLaren team, Careless Jackson is representing, while for the Renault team, it's Herbie. In the AlphaTauri Honda team, it's In the AlphaTauri team, it will be XRL Ozda. Ozda had a very good run yesterday in the Dev League event, and he's anticipated to have a similarly good run here today. In the Racing Point team, it's going to be two of your championship contenders, Retro Rixie and Find Waldo. In the Alfa Romeo team, it's going to be XRL Cargo and Atui. For the Haas team, XRL Gusty will be joining Boothie 116, and for the Williams team, it's going to be JL Bend and Schooled. Normally, I've been saying Schold, and I've been saying Schold for his name the entire season long, and then about a week and a half ago, I got a message from him saying that his name is actually supposed to be pronounced Schooled. So hopefully I will get that correct. I went all of last week's race without properly pronouncing his name, so I am terribly sorry for that. But his name is actually pronounced Schooled. Currently, only 16 drivers are here. And assuming no one serves qualifying bans, that would mean that there would be one driver who would not make it into qualifying section 2. It's going to be a three-way championship fight, and we will talk a little bit more about that once we're on the other end of qualifying, and we'll talk about the various clinch scenarios. However, if you've been following the season last year, I said that it looked like Find Waldo was locked out. Well, there was a bit of a miscalculation on my end, and as well, the points leader Cargo got a massive penalty handed to him post-race that dropped him from 4th down to 8th in the standings. Because of that, not only did he lose the points lead, it ended up putting Find Waldo and Retro Rixie in the tie at the top of the points lead. Find Waldo is now anticipated to win the championship by virtue of him just being significantly faster than everyone else in the field right now. Unless he gets caught up in an accident that totals his car and takes him out of a points-paying position, chances are very likely that he will take home the pole and win the championship today by virtue of that. Preparing to load up the circuit itself here at Abu Dhabi. A very controversial track, to say the least. The thing with Abu Dhabi is that there are bits and pieces of a really good track around here. About the first 4 corners actually make a very, very interesting and engaging race course. And then having 2 moderately long straightaways, rather than just one excessively long straightaway, means that this circuit ends up being very well focused more for acceleration and ERS deployment than just traditional power at the top of the line. So it has a lot of interesting features. Not to mention there's a few technical sections. I'm thinking one technical section right before you get into the hotel section, where you have 2 45-degree corners that go to the right, and then another one to the right, followed by a hard braking 90-degree right-hander. There are several interesting sections, very, very interesting track when it comes to setting up and building your cars. For racing, though, it's known for having very, very dull and, if not absolutely horrible racing. However, I myself am definitely going to be looking forward to this event simply because of the championship fight, even though it's more likely that the championship will be decided by the time qualifying is over. Preparing to get the field loaded up. Find Waldo also had a respectable run yesterday in the Dev League race as well. He also was fighting for a top 3 position. So Ozda and Waldo are both 2 of the drivers you need to take note of for today's event. Also of note, wet qualifying, so that could really end up making things very interesting here. Everyone's going to start at least on the intermediate tires. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that break. I had to take care of something. We're going to be looking at a wet qualifying session followed by a dry race. Cargo was one of the first drivers to get out on the track, as well as Schooled here in the Williams. So the two of them are anticipated to be the first two drivers to set lap times in this session. This is XRL Tone, one of the Ferraris coming out. His teammate XRL Smith is already on the back straightaway, pulling over so other drivers can get some cleaner track. Already, most of the field is already on an out lap or trying to get their out lap going. Fine Waldo, Retro XC, Boothie, Jelbin, and Otwi are all still in the pits for the moment, though. With only 16 drivers in qualifying section 1, that means that only one of them will not advance into qualifying session 2. Smith is going to pull way off the track, so that way it's not going to hinder the Haas that is overtaken. That is going to be the Haas of XRL Gusty. The seat has been a revolving door for the Haas team for a long period of time. In the middle of the season was held by WCD Hubert. Hubert left, and it became a revolving door for a time. Then we had, I can't remember his name, but we had a former X2 driver step in and be running this Haas seat for the last 3 events. However, he is finally gone. It's now going back to Gusty. He will be the last driver to run in the points paid races this season. Schooled has now crossed the start-finish line, as has Cargo, so they are now in the beginning of setting their first flying laps. The Scholled and 2 racing points of Waldo and Retro still have yet to actually leave pit lane. And again, like we've said so many times before, and we'll say it again, when you have wet anything, no DRS will be enabled. That means that lap times will actually take significantly longer to complete here. DRS on the 2 straights are one of the main ways that a lot of time gets shaved off here. But with this qualifying session being completely dry, we have no reason to believe we're going to see massive lap times. I mean, they'll be massive in the sense that they're setting them in the rain, but no crazy lap times like what we are used to see. Retro Rixie has finally begun his outlap. Fine Waldo is still in the pit lane, as is XRL Mazda. Further back, this is Cargo. It's behind him, and it looks like Mazda has apparently had a connection issue. He has been kicked from the session, although I imagine he'll try desperately to get back in. Coming around the final corner, Cargo actually got ahead of Schooled, so he will be the first driver to set a lap time. 150.708 at the line, and it looks like Schooled has decided to come in to the pits. Meanwhile, this is Snake in the Mercedes. Mercedes were trying to capitalize on I called it earlier in the season a return to form. It's really more of just a stabilization to the norm in a sense. We've seen one Mercedes car doing very well and then one Mercedes car frequently not able to perform quite on the same level. Snake is hoping that he'll be able to bring good results for the Mercedes team today, though. He has set 151.048. 152.011 is Carlos Jackson's lap time. Gussie has set 152.183. Kirby, 153.012. This is Adwi. He is currently in the middle of an invalid lap. Adwi has been a very frustrating moment within the Alfa Romeo team. He is supposed to be the teammate for Cargo, be able to run interference and try and keep his rival drivers off of him. However, instead, Otwi, over the last third of the season, has basically been nowhere near the championship contending drivers. He hasn't been able to do anything or run any sort of interference against Retrorixie or Fine Boldo, and that is one of the reasons why the points lead that Cargo had earlier has now evaporated and is now evolved into a deficit. His teammate simply has not been able to step up to the plate as the team would require. That has also been the reason why the racing points have locked up the Constructors' Championship, while Alfa Romeos are nowhere near. I shouldn't say nowhere near, but have been locked out of it after the results of last week. This is Retro Rixie now, one of your other championship contenders. He's been one of the championship contenders the entire time. Another thing of significance, Retro is a former series champion. He won X3's driver championship last year. However, did not get a chance to move up to X2 or X1 for this season, so he stayed in X3. A lot of drivers pegged him early on to be a potential championship favorite. However, in the last 5 races, Fine Waldo has gone from being a very defined number 2 driver into being an outstanding driver. He has taken home more points in the last 5 races than anyone else. For Retro Rixie, who has done nothing but left points on the table, race in and race out, for numerous events now, it's making everything very, very difficult. If it was just between Retro and Cargo, the chance would be that would be a hard fight between the 2 championship contenders. However, within the Racing Point team, we're probably going to see a lot of frustration because the championship that Retro Rixie is going to believe is likely should be his is going to go to the driver who was his number 2 the entire season long. For whatever reason, Waldo has pulled out of his car, pulled out of somewhere. Incredible pace, incredible speed, far beyond every other driver, on pace with an X2 driver. Retro Rixie is likely to lose the championship that he has been a favorite for this entire season. Retro has now put a time up of a 151.371. Ozda and Torpedo are still both in the pits. Ozda is not yet back. This is Boothie coming out of the final corner, and he will set a lap time that takes him right to the top, 150.078. So significantly better than Cargo, so there is still definitely potential within the Haas machines, despite the fact that one of those cars have constantly been a rotating door. Here's Scold. He's on another outlap right now. Antwi has this purple sector 1, 19.456. As he rounds the hairpin, this is where everything comes down to it. Sector 2, the longest sector on the track by far in terms of mileage, although not necessarily the longest in terms of amount of time you spend on there, considering that it's 2 flat-out straightaways and just a few chicanes in the middle. One of the things that make Yas Marina very, very difficult is the fact that when you are on the straights, because you have 2 different straights instead of one long one, you get down to the chicane, and it allows a driver who was leading, who may have gotten past, to go ahead and take advantage of DRS and get back ahead. Because of that, we see quite often one driver will get ahead of another in the first straight, and then the positions will go right back where they were on the second straight. The problem with that is that there's really only 3 or 4 true overtaking opportunities. There is a potential of a dive bomb going into turn 4. There is a dive bomb potential going into turn 1, but those are unlikely. The only other 2 overtaking opportunities are at the end of the 2 straights. Everywhere else on the circuit is very much just setting up for those corners. Antwi coming down to the final 2 corners now, and Waldo is also about to set his first lap as well in the session. Antwi comes out of the final corner. No DRS, because again, DRS has been removed from the front straightaway, and Antwi is good enough for second, 150.280. Retro is all the way down in 5th right now. Also of note, Careless Jackson has apparently gone on to the soft tire compounds. He seems to think that there may be a dry enough track that you can go and set a good time on the softs. Now, of note, though, he is still in the pit lane. They may decide to revoke that decision, go back to intermediates, but if he goes on to softs and tries to set a lap on softs, that could make things very interesting right now. Torpedo and Ozda are still in the pits, and neither of them has set a lap. Scold went out early to attempt a lap. However, he has not set a lap time yet, and he is abandoned again. In the middle of another flying lap, he abandons again with only 7 minutes 50 seconds left in the event, and these laps taking nearly 2 minutes. He can't afford to keep doing this time and time again. Torpedo and Ozda still have not come down to the circuit. This is Waldo now, going into the last 2 corners. And it looks like Waldo is now abandoning his lap as well. So we have 4 different drivers who have yet to set a lap. Gelbin is on an outlap right now. He has by far the worst time thus far, the 154.147, but he is in the middle of an outlap trying to see if he can improve. Of note, Ferrari Power right now, very well represented. The top 3 cars on the current timesheets are all Ferrari powered. And Boothie hasn't validated the lap time. Snake, who was 4th on the timesheets currently, is now coming back out onto the circuit. And Torpedo is now beginning an outlap. I say taking a little bit of time, but he's now beginning an outlap. So the question is going to be, with 6 minutes 48 seconds left, it's going to be between Skold, Ozda, and Waldo. And if Waldo, for whatever reason, ends up not being able to set a lap time, it could end up being very, very interesting for championship contention. Now, it's not saying he can't win the race. Of note, in Brazil, he took the pole, went way off track, and fell all the way to the very back of the field in the first lap, first quarter, and still came back and won by a dominant margin. That wouldn't knock him out of the race, however, it could make things very interesting for the championship. Waldo is yet to leave pit road with 6 minutes and 18 seconds left on the clock, considering it takes you about 2 minutes to get around the circuit. If he was to get out right now, he would have time for roughly 2 laps. Ozda is now finally coming out of the pit lane. Skold is on an outlap once more, as is Torpedo. So those two are likely to set a time if they just actually stay out for 2 laps. Skold has had 2 laps where he's had time potential to set, but then aborted them. Torpedo is still on his first attempt. Also of note, Cargo has apparently decided that he is considering running these soft tire compounds. Of note, the track is not terribly wet right now. There's still a spray coming out, but the track is nowhere near as soaked as what we were seeing in the XRL League at yesterday. This is Retro XC Wildwood Championship contenders as he's going through the final sector right now. Waldo is now on an out lap, so Waldo will have a chance to set a time. Retro is going through the back half of the circuit, but there's a low fuel light. I'll be curious to see if he's going to actually try and improve or not. There's a Ferrari ahead of him. He will move around, not be an issue. 33% ERS left, but Retro is going to bring it into the pits. Skold is still on an outlap. Torpedo has abandoned his attempt and has gone back into the pits. And Waldo, currently on the back half of the racetrack, trying to make something happen. Torpedo is apparently put on soft tire compounds in the pits now. So he believes that the track is just dry enough that you'll be significantly faster with soft tires. Him and Cargo both have made this decision. However, neither of those 2 cars are out on the racetrack right now. Time right now, that's the time that was set on the intermediate tires, so it should be noted. Here comes Skold. He's now on the first of the 2 back straightaways. This is Ozda as he is now beginning his flying lap. 4 drivers all still need to make a time with only 4 minutes left in the session, and Torpedo is still in pit lane. Now the team has apparently gone back to intermediates. If he doesn't get onto the circuit very shortly, there's a very, very high likelihood. Now he's coming out. He has to set a time this time with these tires. If he does not, he will get eliminated from running in Q2 by default. Skold, he's at the end, the second sector. 9 at the end of that sector. Torpedo's on an outlap. This is Oz's. He's coming down the back straightaway right now. There are lots of other movements going on, but these 4 are the important ones. Now, of note, Jailbin is still significantly off pace. If all 4 of these drivers are able to set a time that's decent and up to pace with everyone else, Jailbin would be knocked down significantly in pace. And that is Whippy, who has apparently gone around coming out of the S's. He is coming back onto the circuit now, but Whippy has gone around. That may not prove well for Torpedo, because that may mean that there's an issue with the aerodynamics on the Red Bull team. Skold is finally going to set a lap time with a 151.786. It's taken a long time, but he has finally done it. Ozda will be the next driver to set a lap time, assuming he stays out onto the circuit. Coming through the hotel section right now. Very slow speed, torque focus, and ERS focused corners. Perfect for the mechanical setup. And Snake has apparently retired from the session. He feels that there is no need to continue. This is Ozda coming out of that final corner, and across the line, he will set a time 151.903. Now the question is between Waldo and Torpedo. What can they do? Waldo, 104.9 at the end of Sector 2 as he is coming down to the final 2 quarters now. One of your championship contenders making a very, very risky decision to not set a time until very late in the session. But his time is so good, it doesn't matter. 150.006. No one is touching Waldo except potentially Boothie here. And now the question is, yes, Torpedo, what can Torpedo do here? Cargo is still in the pit lane. He has softs equipped on the car, but there's not enough time for him to get out and set a time. There is I think it's a Ferrari. Okay, he's in the pits. The way the track map is laid out, it makes it kind of awkward to see who's coming into the pits and who's slow on the front straight. Torpedo's coming down now, the first of the two back straightaways. He'll be the last driver to set a time. Galvin is still out on the circuit, but he's 1.6 seconds down on his best time thus far. He needs to find some way to improve. However, he has full ERS, assuming he doesn't have an issue with fuel. He will be able to set a flying lap. Whippy is also on track, but he is in the middle of an invalid lap, and he's on the back half of the circuit with 54 seconds left. It's unlikely he will be able to set a time that will get him up near the front. XRL X has now gone up to 4th on the timesheets. So it's going to be between the Galvin, Torpedo, and Whippy to see who will make it out. It's a purple sector 2 for Torpedo. Galvin coming down at the line. He's up by 2/10. It's not enough. He needs to have a lot more up. He's going to be very abusive and aggressive with the ERS deployment on the straights here. Power down, and here comes the ERS. He's going to get maximum speed. Torpedo is now coming into the last 2 corners now. He will set a time. Smish has retired from the session. He feels that his time is secure. Torpedo, 5th, 150.638, and he crossed the line with just enough time that if he wanted to, he could go again. This is Galvin, trying to see if he can improve to get into Q2. Only one driver will not make it into Q2, and Galvin is trying desperately to make sure he is not the one. This is Whippy, but he has invalidated his current lap, so it's not going to matter. Can he take off roughly 1 and 1.6 seconds in this lap compared to his best one thus far? Tom and Ozza are still both out on the circuit, as is Careless Jackson and Torpedo. We may see Torpedo try, and Whippy is going to go ahead and retire in the pits. No need to keep pushing. Coming down the straight, this is Galvin and the Williams. And the last 2 corners now. And at the line, he does. He will knock Whippy out. 152.285. He does it just barely, but he does it indeed. Gussie is in the middle of a lap, but slower than his best lap thus far. A little bit of a hiccup there in some of those technical sections. Tome is retiring into the pits, and Ozda is currently has an invalid lap. Torpedo is on a cooldown lap, already 2.5 seconds down. So the lineup you see right now is the lap we'll have. All of your championship drivers, unsurprisingly, will make it into Q2, but Retro is kind of in an interesting spot. He's only got 10th on the timesheets. He may have a bit of issue trying to make it into the next round. Cargo set a time very early in the session and did not attempt again later. Torpedo coming around, we all imagine that we'll see him retire into the pits here. That will likely bring an end to the qualifying session very shortly here. Yes, it should. The only that means everyone is now done with their session. For now, championship favorite Waldo is en route to make it 5 straight wins in a row in XRL X3. And again, out of nowhere, Torpedo went from being kind of nowhere on the field to absolutely annihilating everyone else. Boothie is in a competitive spot. The Haas cars are definitely have ability, but ability hasn't been transferring into race wins thus far. The best they've gotten has been a second, and that wasn't from Boothie. That was with, I can't remember his name. I hate that fact. But it was with the other Haas car last week at Brazil, and even then, there was no serious fight for the race win. Also of note, a big thing that needs to take note of, Cargo and Retro have both left a lot of points on the table throughout the season. The biggest example would be Circuit of the Americas. Cargo ended up in an accident in qualifying, and Retro had a qualifying ban, so they both qualified outside of the top 10. And the entire race, neither of them were able to get into points-paying positions. So neither of them made any points while Fine Waldo took home all the points available. And the track looks like it's going to be dry for this session. First drivers are coming out, and I believe that is going to be Azda, who is going to try and be the first car out into the racetrack. Let Carlos Jackson go ahead, and yeah, a dry track has now overtaken the field, so this could make things interesting to say the least. The most important thing about Q2, tire selection is decided for the top 10 drivers in this section here. We have no doubt that Cargo can qualify in the top 10. We have no doubt that Waldo will get the pole, obviously, but for Retro, it's questionable at best to see. Not best. At worst, it's questionable if Retro will be able to make it into Q3. He had a very, very slow time in Q1. That doesn't mean it's not happening. It's just a statement of fact. He had a slow time compared to his championship rivals. Only about half the field are out on the circuit right now. Cargo's one of them. Carlos Jackson is going to come down, and he will be the first driver to try and set a lap. But we're going to do something a little bit different. Well, it's not different, but the same we try to do all the time. We'll ride a full lap on board with Azda. No words, so you can hear what it's like at Yas Marina. That's a lap on board with Azda, who is now on top of the timesheets with a 140.555 in the AlphaTauri. Cargo, one of your championship contenders, is out on the circuit right now, attempting to set a lap on the medium tire compounds, and something has happened to Boothie, apparently. But I don't see him on the racetrack. Oh, wow! And Boothie is not going to advance into the next session. The driver who had the biggest chance, and the other Haas is around now! And now Gusty, both Haas drivers involved in an accident. So very plainly, the tar was set up well enough that they were competitive in the wet, but in the dry, Within 30 seconds of each other, both of the Haas drivers involved in accidents. Boothie knocked out. Gussie has set a time, but it's not a very competitive time, and he has gone around the very following lap. No damage to the Haas machine of Gussie right now, but Boothie is taken out of the event completely. He will not contend for the pole. This basically means that as long as Waldo sets a time to get into Q3 and then sets a competitive time in Q3, which we all know he will win the pole and more likely win the championship from that. Boothie may have been, by virtue of the Haas driver crashing out, that may have just given the championship and decided the championship already. Atui now goes to the top. Here comes Tone. And the other Ferrari, this Ferrari has not yet set a time. Still has a lot of ERS, but fuel is going to be bullish at best. But Tone to the top on the medium tire compounds. All drivers have set their lap times thus far on mediums. The only driver right now in position to set a time on the softs is Galvin, and he's still in the back half of the circuit. So it's going to be a long time until we see somebody set a time on the softs and we can really see what the difference is going to be like. 7 drivers of the 15 have set times, and 1 will not be able to set a time at all. Retro and Waldo are still both in pit lane. However, Retro is on his way out right now. Waldo is waiting. He is not on his way out yet. Also of note, Waldo has softs equipped, so he's going to more likely blow out the competition here and easily make it into Q3 once he does decide to actually jump onto the race track. This is Cargo. Championship contender has not set a time yet. His first lap was invalidated. However, he is in the middle of a clean lap now. He's running the medium tire compounds. Coming out of that final corner across the line to the top. 137.748, by far the fastest time we've seen thus far. Jalbin is out on the softs right now as he is running at the end. And it looks like something has gone wrong. He has a part of Sector 1 purple. He was past whatever may have happened that displayed the yellow flag in Sector 1. He's going right now. And we can anticipate that Galvin's time will give us a good idea as to how the softs actually stack up against the mediums when it comes to single lap pace. Normally you would expect them to be faster, and I don't think anyone is doubting that. However, the question is going to be how much faster. The Williams have just not been in the greatest position thus far. Also of note, Galvin is the only driver on softs. Everyone else has apparently equipped mediums at the moment. So we may not see that traditional flurry in Q2 where drivers abandon their strategy and go from medium to soft. Everyone seems to be content with running mediums right now, and Galvin is the exception to the rule. Waldo is still in the pit lane while Retro is still out. But here we are. Waldo is now coming out. He is merging onto the circuit now, and he will begin his lap in about a minute and a half, maybe a little bit less than that probably. Probably a little more than that probably, I mean. Here comes Jalvin in the Williams out of the final corner. Trying to see if he can set a competitive time on the softs. Herbie to the top with a 137.597, so a good result for the Renaults, who have been absolutely collapsing over the last few weeks. Maybe their fortunes will finally start resolving themselves because Herbie is now in the top 10. Well, only 10 drivers put times down though, and that means that if nothing changes, he will make it into the next session. Atui is still in the pits. Retro has invalidated his current lap. Torpedo is on the lap though. That is not invalidated. He is on medium tires right now. And of note, Galvin on the softs. That's the 3rd fastest time thus far, but it's still not very close to either Cargo or Herbie. So both of those cars seem to be a little bit better set up than Jalbin, but the softs are definitely going to be enough to help keep him in the top 10 and will more likely make it into Q3. Snake is out trying to see if he can improve on a lap right now as he's exited Sector 2. He's going through Sector 3 right now. Schooled to the top with a 136.132 now, and he is running very more medium tires. He's running 4 laps on those. So there's definitely a significant preference to run the medium about everybody here. Comes Torpedo through the last bit of the track. Gusty coming down the final corner across the line. He will set the time of 1:36.803. So Mercedes Power now dominates the very top of the timesheets. Torpedo is coming down now, and at the line it's good enough for 1:36.903. Retro has invalidated this lap as well, apparently, and Waldo is on a lap that is not invalid. We will obviously anticipate him to probably set something in the 1:35 range here, and will easily lock himself into Q3. Purple Sector 2, 57.811, and we are anticipating he will set the fastest, if not, I anticipate he will set a 1:35. That is my personal prediction. I think he'll set something like a 1:35.8 or 1:35.9. Fuel, so this is going to be his only true shot at setting a lap. He doesn't have a whole lot of fuel for an extra lap, but frankly, it doesn't look like he's going to need it. No invalidation here. Coming down to the line, there it is, a 1:35.4. So I underestimated him. He's over half a second faster than everybody else here. So that means that Waldo is more likely giving himself a championship. Retro, on the other hand, though, is not even close. He has tried so long to get a lap going. This is his second lap on these mediums. Now, he does still have full ERS. Alright, this lap, he set 144.170, so it was a slow lap anyway. He abandoned it, got everything ready and set for this lap. He will attempt to go hardcore this time around. Atui is on an out lap. Oh, and that's a Ferrari! And that's Smish! Smish has wrecked the car in the S's. There's no one else coming right now, so the track is clear enough that he can get going again. But Smish, who is currently 10th on the timesheets, was out there on the mediums trying to see if he can improve. And ends up going around and significantly damaging the front wing. However, the car is still in one piece. If he can jump back out there, he may have a chance to try and make it in to the next round. Gusty is on an out lap. Atui has begun a flying lap as well. Atui has yet to set a time. Retro is in the middle of his own flying lap now. It is still legal. The fuel in the car, it will be enough to get to the end of this race. ERS will be enough as well. 57.756. Retired from the session, he sees no need to continue working on the racetrack. Rear end of Retro's car seems a little bit tail happy, but nothing that he can't handle. Coming down to the last two corners here. Snake has also retired from the session. Retro, 136.118. Cargo is on an out lap, trying to see if he can improve. He's running softs right now because there is a risk that Cargo might get knocked out. It's not a strong risk, but it is a risk that needs to be made aware of. Atui is currently flying right now. In Sector 3, he is running the soft tire compounds. Carlos Jackson right now is also on softs. As of note, Albin and Carlos Jackson are the only two drivers who have set their best lap times on softs. Everyone else has set their times on mediums. And Albin is honestly at the risk of getting knocked out here. If nothing changes, Atui is about to set a time. And it does. And that will knock Albin and the Ferraris of Tom Smish out and the House of Gusty out. Waldo's retired from the session. No need to continue racing. No one else is going to be able to touch him this entire weekend, like they haven't been able to this entire latter quarter of the season. Right now, the pressure is on for XRL Gusty. He is roughly 2 seconds off of Smish's time. And then just making it into the race itself, he's 5 seconds out. So he desperately needs to take a lot of time off that he has right now. Smish has retired from the session. He feels that there is no need to continue. He is not going to be able to improve. Tome, on the other hand, seems to think that there's still something that they can do with that car to get him into Q3. But his teammate in the Ferrari has abandoned the attempt. Jalbin has retired, so he will not go again. Right now, it's a question of if Tome or Gussie can knock Cargo out. The time is up in the session. Cargo has a purple sector 2. Cargo needs to improve just a little bit, just in case Tome or Gussie put a better time and knock him out. It's a small risk, but it's one he does not want to take. The driver who is on top of the championship standings for a significant chunk of the season. Coming around. There's not much fuel left in that car. Very aggressive on the ERS. Is good enough for a second. 135.825. The problem, though, is that he is on softs. His rivals will be on mediums, so they will have the ideal strategy. He will not have the ideal strategy, and he's going to have to fight a lot harder to get anything close to those two drivers who will be fighting. Gussie at the line, 136.175. That means Herbie has been knocked out of the session. Tome is 1.9 seconds up, and he is at risk of possibly knocking out Torpedo. He does! Look at that! Ferrari second on the powertrain. Torpedo gets knocked out. Herbie gets knocked out. A bunch of drivers get knocked out. Tome with an outstanding time. 135.608. And it was on the mediums as well. Absolutely outstanding job by Tome there. An incredible lap. An incredible lap by the Ferraris, who most of the season have been caught in Q3 or maybe Q2. We hardly ever see Ferraris make it into Q1. Not only is he going to make it into Q1, he's going to make it with the second fastest time. The fastest if you eliminate Waldo. And on the medium tire compounds, he's faster than Retro, faster than Cargo, Scholl, Gussie, Jackson, Otway, Azza, and Snake. Torpedo, Herbie, Jalbin, Smish, and Boothie will be the drivers who will not advance. And there you see, Gussie, Jackson, and Cargo will all be on the softs for starting the race. Everyone else will be starting on mediums. But wow, what a fantastic lap by Tome there. That was incredible. That's not driver of the day material, obviously, because that's more based off things in the race itself. But I'm just going to say right now, that lap by Tome, if there was a driver of the day for only qualifying, I would immediately mark him down for that. In fact, because there's not one, and I will admit I'm a little bit biased, I'm a Ferrari guy, but I'm going to immediately give him, right off the bat, Tome, you get, from me, driver of the qualifying session, yes for that lap. Outstanding job there, mate. I know it seems like I'm making a lot of deal about it, a lot of fuss, but like if you've not been following, the Ferraris have not been very good, not been very competitive for a lot of the season. When it comes to single lap pace, they've constantly been in the back half of the field, but he's just brought them one of their best what may be one of their best qualifying sessions of the entire season here. Matsui is now coming out into the track. School is already coming out, but the first driver, like it was in Q2, is Azda. Azda, normally in the broadcasting booth with us, it's kind of nice to see him here on the racetrack. And I told him, I jokingly told him, after last week's race, when the conversation was that he might be a reserve driver for this event, I said, sure, you can go out there and I will eviscerate you and tear you apart on the street. But and we kind of joked about it for a bit, but Azda has actually been very, very solid this entire week in the Dev League, which is usually consisted of drivers trying to qualify as a XRL driver overall, along with X2 and X3 drivers who use it for a practice session. Azda got third, and he ran the entire race without any track violations at all. He definitely may be one of the few drivers who could run with Waldo, if not for a fact that Waldo's pace has just been significantly much faster over a single lap. So by virtue, Waldo is likely going to start from the pole, and Azda will more likely be a little bit farther back in the field. He won't be able to take a fight directly to Waldo. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying that, like, if you had money, I would quite literally invest tens of thousands of dollars in Waldo winning the championship and this race from the pole. Oh no! Unlike every other session, every driver is already out on the racetrack. There's been no waiting, no chill, no nothing. Everyone immediately got out there to try and start setting laps. Part of the reason for that, though, is because this track is so long it takes you the better part, well, it takes you over a minute and a half, better part of a minute and 3/4 to actually set a lap here with only 12 minutes on the clock. If you run that, you can go ahead and do a little bit of a math there, factoring in the amount of times it comes to come in and out of pits. That would be roughly about 2 minutes a lap. You can only get a turn about 6 laps in this session if you are the first driver out there like Ozza is right now. So everyone will go out there and probably set a lap or 2 right now. And then they'll go out, we'll see like a period where we'll probably only have 1 or maybe even no drivers out on the track. And then everyone else will do their final rush at the very end of Q3, like what we've seen a lot of other times. This is kind of exacerbated here because of the length of the track and the way that it is set up. Excuse me. We still continue to follow Ozda here. Tome is going to be the last driver, and Ozda has invalidated his current lap. That's not going to bode well for him. This is Snake. He's on the back half of the circuit. Here's Retro, but Waldo is the 3rd driver in the line. Oh, and something has happened to Ozda, I think. Ozda pulled over. He realized that his lap was bad, so he pulled over so that way School could get ahead of him. Here comes Waldo, though. Down this mini straight into the last 2 quarters. He'll be the 2nd driver to set a time. No, it'll actually be the first one because School has abandoned his lap. So Waldo will set the bar 134.416. No one is going to touch that all day. This is Atui, the teammate for Cargo. Retro sets a 135 flat, well, almost flat. And Atui at the line 134.800. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe it will be possible for somebody to get close to Waldo, but no one's going to knock him off the top. This is Tome on the back straightaway, the Ferrari that put down a massive lap in Q2. 57.297 at the end of the 2nd sector here. Ferris Jackson goes up to 5th, Gussie goes up to 6th. So the Haas has a little bit of potential still. It was able to make it into Q3 despite giving issues to the drivers in Q2, but I don't know if it's going to be potential enough to actually fight. Tome invalidates the lap. That means he'll more likely bring it into the pit rain. Schooled is back on the way out. Snake is still in the pits. This is Ozza trying to get another lap going here. Wide out of that corner, using every inch of track that is legal and available to him. And around that final corner, here comes the AlphaTauri. 135.397, that's only good enough for 5th at the moment. Cargo has set a time, but it's only 135.209, that's 0.8 off of Waldo, and about 2/10, exactly 2/10 actually, off of Retro. So of the 3 championship containers, he is now on the outside looking in. Schooled is on an out lap. Tome and Snake are both in the pits. However, Snake is beginning a nice, steady march out. Tome is still in his pit box. Cargo's current lap is invalid. He's down on time anyway. I imagine he'll come into the pits to refuel and get everything set up. That's exactly what he's doing now. Retro and Atui are both in. This is Waldo. He is still flying. Oh, no, he still has a very, very heavy fuel tank, so he's only going to continue to take time off as this goes on, assuming he doesn't make any mistakes and the tires don't die on him too quickly. He's down by 3/10 at the end of this lap, though. If he's trying to see if he can improve on his lap, I'm not saying this is what you have to do. This is just me, a armchair observer like most of you guys. I would start cooling it down this lap and go, oh, actually it looks like he's probably going to come in this lap instead because his fuel is now very low as well. But he has basically locked up the pole, and by virtue of locking up the pole, has basically locked up the race win and the championship, so congratulations to Waldo on that. Assuming he does not get taken out and DNF'd in someone else's accident, this title is all but his. Schooled He's going through the chicane between the two straights right now. DRS pops open. And at the end of Sector 2, it's a 57.384. He is one of 3 drivers who have yet to set a time. Tom is still in the pit lane. He is the Ferrari who set a great time in Q2 to make it in here, but he hasn't set an actual lap time yet. Snake is back there in 10th. That might invalidate School's lap. No, the lap is not invalid. It's going to be slow, but it's not invalid yet. One of the Williams were not even able to make it into Q2, despite only 16 cars qualifying. School is trying to bring some glory to the Williams team this race. He sets a time 1:35.041. Cargo is now beginning an outlap. Retro is on an outlap as well. Tom is still in the pit lane, but Snake is on the first of the 2 back straightaways, trying to see what he can do here. Very aggressive on the ERS and DRS here, trying to get every bit of speed possible down the straight. 57.403 at the end of that second straightaway. Still in the pit lane with a little less than 3 minutes left. He needs to get out there onto the track ASAP to set a time. At the line, Snake good enough for 6th. Cargo on an outlap, trying to put some distance between himself and School ahead of him, so that way he can go full balls to the wall this upcoming lap. Anticipated that he will have roughly 2 laps worth of ERS and 2 laps worth of fuel. He needs to do everything he can to improve his starting position. He's going to be starting on the soft tire compounds. His championship rivals will be starting on medium, so he is already at a disadvantage. But his lap is beginning now. Tom is on the way out of pit lane now. He's 4 thousandths up at the end of Sector 1. And we've seen throughout these last several races, Cargo's ability isn't typically in qualifying. He normally shows on his best during the race itself. He's had 2 races in a row where he has made immediate, insane runs from the back to the front. From mid-pack to the front. So him coming up to the field is not unheard of for him. The thing is, though, that he comes up to the field and then normally ends up stalling out about 3rd or 4th, and Waldo is going to stay on the pole and cruise on for this race win. So it's not going to matter much for his championship hopes unless he can make something happen and some bad luck happens to find Waldo. Retro, on the other hand, has been basically the inverse of Cargo. Whenever nothing goes wrong, Retro normally qualifies a little bit better than Cargo, and then stays up near the front all day long. But when something happens to Retro, we don't typically see him make up as many positions. He has been, the main reason Retro has been a championship contender most of the season is that he has a very, very good qualifying run and then capitalizes on that just enough to bring home good hauls of points. Cargo has been a driver, a true driver's driver in a sense. That's a rough thing to say. That doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth saying that. But typically what Cargo does is Cargo doesn't qualify as well. He makes up all his positions on track. Retro typically gets those positions made up in qualifying. So Cargo being the slower of the 3 championship contenders isn't unheard of. It's been kind of a feature of the season. Coming out of the final corner now, though. Not the final corner, the hairpin onto the first straightaway. Cargo's going, but of note, Tone. It's 4 seconds left. He needs to keep it clean so he can set a lap time. Otway to the top, 134.176. So someone has fought and knocked Waldo off the top spot. Nope, never mind. Don't get your hopes up too high. Waldo to the top, 133.579. Tome, the last driver who has to set a lap time. The question is going to be, will he be able to improve? And if he does, by how much? He had a purple sector 2 there. He just needs to keep it clean. Frankly, even just being in the top 10 is great in itself. Gusty's retired from the session. He feels no need to continue. Ozda goes up to third, 134.737, so that's going to knock Retro even farther down the order. Fuel light is low for Tome. He doesn't care. He's going to just go and abuse it. They are almost out of fuel on that Ferrari, but he's putting it down. He's putting the hammer down at the line. Tome, good enough for 5th. Carlos Cax is out on the track, but he's on the middle of an invalid lap. Antwi is 2.9 seconds down, so he's not going to improve. So the lineup you see right now is the lineup that is going to be for the top 10 going into this race. Once again, I want to congratulate Tome, bringing home a Ferrari top 5 starting position. Absolutely impressive, considering that Ferraris, for the most part, have been nowhere this entire season. Although 133.579 is the pole setting time. Hey! I didn't even mean to rhyme there, but I did. The session has concluded. We're just waiting for the game to realize that now. And Waldo cruising to a championship in the end of the season. There's your pole setter. We'll also get the point for taking home the pole, so that will give him the default lead in the championship going into the race itself. And there's your lineup. So looking very briefly at the points, this is how it stacks up for the top 3 championship materials. Retro Rixie has 177, Fine Waldo has 178, and Cargo has 174 points. If Cargo can win this race, which isn't likely to happen, but if Cargo can win this race, he wins the championship by default. In fact, if any of these drivers win the race, they win the championship by default. Outside of that, though, it's going to be very interesting. Meanwhile, a little bit farther down in the field, though, Tino Farah has 1 point, although he's not shown up today. Gusty has 2 points in the Haas. Herbie has 3 points. 4 points for XRL Stumpy. 7 points for Fratters. Boothie has 11. Steele has 13, but Steele is serving a ban after the events that went down in Mexico. So, a little bit of rough feelings there. I'm not going to get into that. Constant Jet in the Williams has 16 points. Turbo has 19 points in the Ferrari. Books has 23 points in the Mercedes. Smish from the other Ferrari has 34. Fritz has 62 points. Scold has 64 points. Whippy has 87 points. Atwi has 98 points. His form has dropped off significantly in the last few races, and he has gone from what may have been a 4th or 5th in points all the way down to 6th now. Karis Jackson has 110 points. Snake has 118. Cargo has 174. Waldo 178, and Retro Rixie has 177. That is your point setup right now as we prepare to go into today's race. Again, if any of our 3 championship contenders win today's race, they will win the championship by default. stand by right now until we get the race underway itself. Just wait a minute or two more and we should be on the grid. Alright, everyone's ready up. Of note, for those of you who may just be joining us, three-way championship bout between Cargo, Retro, and Waldo. If any of those three win the race today, they win the championship by default. And it's lights out, and away we go here at Yas, and right off the bat, Antwi did not get going whatsoever. Waldo was going to cruise into the lead and into the championship. Farther back, though, the Ferrari of Smish is involved in some incidents, and there's still 3 wide back there. Everyone's trying to get things resolved there. Azda has been knocked off the circuit, though. Significant damage on the car. He falls all the way to back, and now Gusty has been involved in an accident with Retro Rixie. Smish involved in an accident as well. And we are under a full course safety car now. Gusty annihilated from the race before we even get a serious lap in. Cargo gets up to 6. Retro out of the points paying positions now, though. One second. Anyways, we are now under full course yellow. Azda, from a top 10 starting position all the way out. Retro, it doesn't look like there's any damage in the car. He may be able to continue without needing to pit. Herbie has damage to the front wing. Tailband, trying to see if there's any front wing damage. It looks like he'll be good to continue. Smish already has a time penalty for collision, though, with Herbie earlier. As the yellow came out, Whippy is now up into the 10th position. But Cargo already up to 6th. But Waldo is leading. As long as he can stay there, he will win. And Cargo is coming to the pits. There is damage on the front wing. So Cargo is going to have to do one of his classic drives from behind to make anything happen. However, the benefit for him is that he is the first driver to come into the pits, so it will not be a significant issue for him. This also means that he can get onto whatever tire strategy he wants, and this will count as a tire change, so he can run whatever tires he wants for the rest of today's race. So a small benefit, not going to be enough to really help him, but it will be a small benefit. Regardless, Mazda is staying out on the track. The damage on his car is apparently not significant enough for them to warrant bringing that car in. But Cargo had to pit, as did Smish, as did Herbie. Scholl now apparently has a penalty for a collision with Torpedo. I don't know how accurate that actually is. Retro is 11th, still out of the points-paying position. So right now, neither of your season-long championship favorites are in points-paying position, and Waldo, if everyone's to finish where it is right now, he would win the championship with Retro 2nd and Cargo 3rd. It's going to take Cargo, Smish, and Herbie a little bit of time to catch up to the back of the field. Though I do imagine that they will be at the back by the time we get to the green flag. So we might be able to go green this lap. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Cargo is already pretty much caught up to the back end, the tail end of the field here. Smish will take him just a little bit longer. But he does have another straight to take advantage of here. No word that the safety car is coming in, so we may have to go another lap under yellow here. And indeed, that looks like it's exactly what's going on. One more lap under the safety car. That's weird. Torpedo is apparently coming into the pits, so they're swapping onto medium tires now, and he'll run those for the rest of the race. Well, not for the rest of the race, but for the next chunk of the race. I didn't mean rest of the race, my apologies. He should be able to catch up to the back of the field. We should still be going green this lap, though. But of note, everyone from 12 on back will be on relatively, well, slightly fresher tires than those in front. However, considering that we only did about 20% of a lap under green, it's not really going to have too much of an impact until the very, very end when the tires start falling off. One thing of note, because there are so many 90-degree corners here, the stress put on the tires is still pretty consistent under green or under yellow. And here we are, Torpedo's already caught to the back of the field. 15 cars left on circuit. For Atui, he needs to make something happen. He needs to get Waldo and bring Waldo down into the clutches of the rest of the field. Otherwise, his teammate Cargo will have no chance of winning the championship. Safety car in this lap officially. Atui needs to make something happen to the leader this time. If he cannot, Waldo will walk off with this race lead, inevitably the race win and the championship. For the sake of the team, he needs to do something to Waldo on the run down to turn 1. Pace car is away. Coming to the green very shortly here. Everyone weaving, trying to keep their tires warm, except for that Haas back there. Boothie is taking the Kimi Raikkonen approach of, I just go fast to keep the tires warm. Green flag is out, and he's around! And Atui has totaled the car, coming out of the final corner, putting the power down. And the car is destroyed. Yellow flag only in Sector 3, though. They're staying green further back in the field. Boothie is right there on Schultz now. The Haas, the only remaining Haas, trying to find some way to make it up to the field. Herbie now apparently has a time penalty for track violations. Careless Jackson, he's on softs. He's within 9/10 of a second of Waldo. If he can stay within that gap, he might be able to utilize DRS to steal a win from a championship contender. Tome in the Ferrari is third. This could be his best run for the Ferraris this entire year. Well, outside of Monza, obviously. Monza's an exception. Monza is with the win, but the second best run for a Ferrari all season long. A little bit farther back, here is Boothie working on Scold, trying to make something happen. But this track is not very favorable for overtakes. Ozda doesn't care though. Ozda's just gone around jail a bit. Meanwhile, Cargo has gone up to 10th and Retro has fallen to 14th. goes off circuit further back. Cargo is back into the points-paying positions. Careless Jackson, meanwhile, is now within half a second, well, about 0.6 of a second later. Problem is, he keeps catching him in corners, and it's causing him to lose time in the straightaway afterwards. Retro is fine with Herbie here. This is for 13th and 14th position. Herbie ahead for the moment, but Herbie keeps getting time penalties, and that's not going to help him. It's the same thing that's been hurting that team for a while. Meanwhile, farther up, Torpedo is trying to work on Smish, and Cargo has Jailbend in his sights. Back at the front, this is Careless Jackson. It's a purple sector 1. Well, it doesn't really mean too much in the race unless you're going for fastest in race lap. He will have the draft off of Waldo going down the straightaway. Not enough of a draft to make anything happen, though, but he is closing. He is there. If he can just do this for 1 or 2 more laps, he might be able to overtake Waldo with DRS assist. Waldo did not have a very good exit. This might be it. Jackson might be able to go into the lead without DRS assist. Waldo made a mistake. Going under braking now. And Careless Jackson will take the lead. And for the first time all season long, we have seen someone take the lead in a legitimate no-holds-barred overtake on Fine Waldo. And he did it without DRS assist. But he has soft tires, Waldo has medium tires, so the battle will inevitably swing back into the favor of the Racing Point. A little bit farther back, Whippy is up in 7th. He has Ozda trying to close in behind him. For right now, his focus is on Scold, and Scold's focus is on Snake. Boothby now has a 3-second time penalty for track violations. He's up there in the 4th position, leading this little train. DRS has been enabled for the field now. Ooh, Whippy steps way out of line there, not quite able to follow Scold. Scold is having trouble keeping up with Snake right now as well. Jailbend and Torpedo having a little bit of an aggressive battle there. Moves Torpedo now up into the points main positions. Cargo has DRS on Ozda ahead of him and is now closing in. Ozda does not have DRS on the cars ahead though. And there's a little train that's formed behind Boothby now. Back, Smish and Herbie going at it. They both have DRS, but the Renault may have slightly better straight line speed. He's going to think better of making a move, though, because Torpedo and Jailbend are just ahead. Oh, but Herbie's going to try and do a cutback going through the chicanes at the end of that second straight. Can't make anything happen, though. But Jailbend is having a rough time. He's being held up very significantly by Torpedo. So we have 2 little truly trains of the sort, or DRS trains, being formed on the circuit here, where a slower car is leading a bunch of faster ones. But they've not been able to get by yet. Snake has now dropped off significantly off of the rear end of Boothby. But Scold is still right there on the back of Snake, and Whippy isn't too far behind them. And Cargo is also catching Ozda at a rapid rate. Trying to close in on Snake and make something happen. But right now, it looked like Scold was just a little bit more than a second away from Snake at the end of the DRS. That would mean that if so, he would not get DRS. No DRS for the tar. That means Whippy, though, behind him does have DRS. But the Red Bull is not very well trimmed out for the straightaway, so he's not able to do anything to him. Ozda was within closing distance of Whippy, and he has Cargo right behind him. But now this means that Scold might not be able to do anything to Snake. He has DRS on Snake this time, though. Everyone has DRS on each other, and Smish! Smish has gone around in the chicane between the 2 straightaways. He is back on the way, but he has gone around. And now Herbie has finally lost the position to Retro, so Retro is now up into the 12th position. This is a little bit further back in the field. Whippy is right there behind Scold, who is right behind Snake. And Snake is just trying to stay close enough to Boothy that he can utilize DRS to stay ahead of the cars behind them. Whippy right underneath Scold going down the straight, but will think better of actually making a move here. But he is right under him. And Carlos Jackson! Carlos Jackson has gone off on the circuit all by himself! And he's going to plummet down to the field, and that gives the lead back to Find Waldo, and with no one around him, the championship is over. Find Waldo will win your championship unless some bullcrap happens, which I highly doubt. Find Waldo will be your champion because no one in this field has the ability to match him on pace. Look at this here, Cargo on the inside of Whippy. I'm sorry, not Whippy, Ozda. And that's, there's so much stuff going on right here. It's hard to tell what's actually going on. But Scold and Cargo neck and neck here for these positions. And they all have DRS on each other right now. Dale Bin, track violation warning. But here comes Cargo. He's looking to the outside. I don't know if he would be able to make a move there. He's trying. He gets hit from behind and in front, though. Scold gets a time penalty for track violation warnings. Cargo right there behind Scold. He wants to make something happen. He knows he's faster than this. He has a championship to fight for. Williams steps out really wide there. And the damage! Cargo has damage to the wing again. So any chance that Cargo had to fight for the championship is now dead in the gutter. The race is over. And the championship is over. Find Waldo will be your champion. This is Retro. He has lost touch with the field ahead of him. Torpedo has risen up to 8th, and Whippy is now in 4th. He's far enough away from Scold that it's not going to be an issue for him. Right now, the question is, can Ozda close in on the Williams ahead enough to make something happen? He's popped the DRS open on the straight here. He doesn't close enough on the Williams, though. Torpedo really is the fastest of them all. He's got what's basically a terminal velocity, metaphorically speaking, on the straight. He's gained the draft from 4 cars, and he has DRS as well. What can Ozda do? Also of note, Boothy is closed in just a little bit on Tone. He's within DRS range. Well, right now he's just staying outside of it, but he may be in a position to try and take a position from the Ferrari. Also, Carlos Jackson has raced his way back up into the 7th position. He's actually gotten by Torpedo. That's very interesting to see. Ozda is right there underneath Scold. The thing is that in Cargo now has a time penalty for track violations. Ozda within 6/10, but he has a slower exit, and the way the arrow is set up on the car is not to his advantage. He's not going to close it enough on Scold to actually make a move. But Carlos Jackson is good enough that he might try and make a move on Torpedo going to the next straightaway. He's looking for it. Thing is, they both have DRS, and yes, Carlos Jackson is significantly faster in a straight line. this time. Of note, Torpedo is on slightly fresher tires than everyone else around him. Also, Boothie is slowly losing pace, is losing touch with the Ferrari of XRL Tone. Carlos Jackson in the pits now. Swapping on to medium tires. Cargo, fastest lap of the day, 139.297. That would be 1 point in his favor if he can hold on to that for the rest of the race. He's 3 points out from Retro for second. Right now, though, Retro is in the points main positions, Cargo is not. He needs something to change for that to work out in his favor. Torpedo is right there under Ozda, who's right there under Scold. The problem is that Williams is set up for pure straight line speed, so Ozda, who is set up for cornering ability, can't do anything about him. Torpedo is faster than both of them. He has DRS. That Red Bull is all set up for speed. He's going to get in front of Ozda, but Ozda is going to make for a dive at the very end. Can't make it stick. Now move Torpedo up into the 6th position. He's right there behind Skull, but what can he do to the Williams? That Ozda couldn't. Probably overtake him on the straight. And that's Torpedo, who's going to take 5th as Scold goes ahead and makes a stop, and he will swap off of his medium tires. Retro is now up into the 7th position, and Boothie has just gotten by Tome, actually, so Tome must have made a mistake, because this happened in a non-DRS section of the track. It's very interesting, to say the least, but now Boothie goes up to 2nd. Now, here's the thing, though. Tome should have DRS on the Haas ahead of him, though. Cargo, fastest lap again, 139.288. Here he does. The Ferrari has DRS and will pull ahead on the straightaway. The thing is, now, Boothie will have DRS to fight back. Wow, nearly runs in the back of the Ferrari. But now the Haas will have DRS back on the Ferrari on this straightaway. So for now, Tome is back ahead of Boothie. Boothie putting on some laps and some work with those softs, to say the least. He might be able, if he keeps it going, stays out there for another lap or two, he might be able to make it only once. Yep, there he is. He's coming in, and he will probably swap to the mediums and make the mediums run to the end of the race. So Boothie in position to take home a 2nd position on the track. Meanwhile, Red Bulls of Whippy and Torpedo rank 4th and 5th. Now, Whippy will inherit 2nd, Torpedo will inherit 3rd. And Ozda stayed out a little bit longer. He is on tires that he started the race on. He's currently 4th. Right there behind Torpedo, but the thing with Ozda is that he does not have the car set up for straight line speed. It's all set up for cornering ability. Carlos Jackson now set the fastest lap time, 138.936. Mazda has the DRS. Once again, he gets right underneath the rear wing of the Red Bull ahead, but he can't actually do anything to him because the car is just all set up for cornering. It does not gain enough speed in the straights, even with drafting DRS, to actually overtake the vehicle ahead. A little bit farther back, this is Tome. Still ahead of Boothie, is actually right there behind Snake. If he could get DRS on Snake for a few laps, that would really help Tome open up a bit of a gap on Boothie and try to further cement his position near the front. Mercedes will stay out another lap, so that should help him a bit. Of note, Tome is being held up by Snake, so Boothie is closing in slowly. He needs to get DRS and put that Mercedes between them as fast as possible. He's never going to do that. He's just going to overtake him easily on the front straightaway. Now, move Tome up into the 6th position. The thing is, now things are going to be different. Now, Snake is actually going to have DRS on Tome, and that means Tome will have to lose more time on the straight to Snake. So that position, that overtake, is actually going to harm. So he's actually being penalized for making an overtake, in a sense, because it wasn't a DRS overtake. Now, thankfully, though, he's farther enough ahead of Snake that won't be an issue. But if Snake was any faster, it would be an issue. Worked his way up to the 5th. He is one of 4 drivers who are still on the same set of tires that he started the race on. Came to a dead stop on the racetrack to avoid an accident early on, has avoided everything else since. That's why he's up in 5th. And he's on track to come home 2nd in the driver's points after being one of the 2 drivers to lead the most of the season. And the driver who was the number 2 on the team for most of the year, Fine Waldo, is going to take the championship from him. He has Tome, though, right behind him. Tome, with the softs, is absolutely lighting them up, trying to put as much gap right now as he can between himself and Boothie. He's already going side by side with Retro on this next straightaway. Retro, is he going to fight hard to defend the position? No, he is not. He'll give it to Tome. So now Tome goes up in the 5th, and his next driver on his list will be Ozda. Thing is, at Scholl, fastest lap 138.583. Thing with Ozda, though, is that Ozda is actually, I would argue he's probably being helped by Torpedo, and if he did get by Torpedo, he actually would probably lose time and ground. Because being behind Torpedo like he is actually giving him enough extra speed on the straightaways that he's not losing. Here he is, he's going to make a move, though. He's finally making a move on Torpedo on the straight. Neck and neck through the chicane. Ooh, and a little bit of contact there. He has DRS on Torpedo again, but Torpedo had a better line coming onto the 2nd straightaway, so Oz is not going to be able to do anything to him. The benefit still goes to Torpedo. But Tome is closing in on this battle. He has softs that he is putting everything into. He wants to put as much position and as many cars with himself and Boothie as possible. Boothie has now gotten by Snake, though, in a technical section of the track, and now he is focused on trying to get by Retro. Tome closing in. Ozda's still right there behind Torpedo, but he's so much slower on the straightaways that he can't actually make anything happen. He needs Torpedo to make a mistake if he wants to get into the 3rd position. Is going to have DRS on both of them. Scholl 138.437, so he continues to set the fastest laps of the race thus far. All 3 have caught each other now, and Tome's tires are only 2 laps old. On to the straight now. A little bit of lag on Oz's, and Oz is going to move over. He's not even going to try and hold up Tome whatsoever. That means that Tome is going to have everything he can. He might try and make 2 positions in one straightaway. He's going to think better of it, though. But he will have DRS on Torpedo at the very next corner. And the Ferrari has come to life in a way that we haven't seen since Monza this year. He is past the Red Bull. Dropped to 7th, and he has Snake not too far behind him. So Snake trying to put a little bit of work on one of your former championship contenders. We're still waiting to see when Waldo and Whippy will go ahead and come into the pits, because when they do, they are anticipated to put on softs and run those the rest of the race. Boothie has just gotten by Ozda. Ozda has gone ahead and he's jumping into the pits. There's no further value for him to run where he has been. Behind Torpedo, he is coming onto the softs and is hoping that with the softs, he might be able to make up more ground. But he has now plummeted out of the top 10 in the process, though. Falling all the way to 13. Now he's dead last on the field. Although he'll likely make some of those positions up when Jael Bend inevitably pits again, and Ozda is likely to catch the finish and potentially overtake him. Farther back, though, Retro has just gotten overtaken by Snake on the straightaway here. Now here's the thing, Retro will have DRS back on Snake going to the next straight. He did not have a very good run through the chicane, so it's not going to serve him much of a benefit against Snake, however. No, he doesn't have DRS at all, apparently. That meant that Careless Jackson came right up there. Careless Jackson, the only driver this entire season who's been able to take a fight directly to Waldo in the latter quarter of the season, I should say, is now working on Retro. And he should have DRS, but will be able to likely get by him on the straight here next time they get to the back straightaways. Of note, Careless Jackson is on significantly fresher tires than Retro. Retro is on the same tires as he started the race on. Waldo and Whippy are both in pit lane. Ozda now has a time penalty. Waldo and Whippy are both in the pits. And Tome is actually going to briefly inherit the lead. Because he pitted significantly earlier and used DRS, he actually has opened up a little bit of a gap. So he is now ahead of Find Waldo by a small amount. Torpedo is also ahead of Find Waldo as well. Find Waldo has Boothie behind him. This is not where he wants to be. Waldo just needs to get out of here. If he ends up with damage, he might lose the championship. He's going to try desperately to not be involved in anyone else's mess. He's got DRS. He's going to make something happen against Torpedo. Torpedo's been able to hold off Ozda all race long without DRS, but I don't think he's going to be able to do the same thing to Waldo here. Waldo's already gone. He's already more than a second and a half out. Alright. Boothie's going to go ahead and utilize DRS to get around Torpedo now. So Torpedo's going to fall to 4th. Apparently Smish has just been kicked out of the lobby by the game. So this means that Ozda has a chance to catch up to Smish and try to make something happen here. Torpedo is now making his pit stop. So he'll drop down through the field quite a bit. Probably end up a little bit, probably a bit ahead of Ozda, if anything. But Ozda's just gotten by Smish here. Smish coming in the pits, and Retro now has a time penalty. There's Torpedo. Here's Ozda, who's going to be ahead of the other. It's going to be close, but it's looking like it will be Torpedo who will still be ahead of Ozda here. Indeed it is. And now everyone is more than a second, has more than a second gap between each other with the exception being Whippy and Cargo. Whippy is going to try to probably make something happen against Cargo here, but I don't think it's going to work out. So Whippy is now there in position to start putting pressure on Cargo. Nine laps to go here. Well, it will be 9 laps to go at the line. With Retro out of the point, and Waldo's just set the fastest lap of the day. With Retro out of the points main positions and Cargo in them and Waldo walking off with the championship, it's more than likely going to happen. Waldo will lock up this title without any issue. Although he did lock it up races early, it was pretty apparent after Mexico that he was going to win the title. If you did the championship tally, right, which I did not at one point, so I but it's looking like Cargo is likely to end up ahead. Oh, when something has happened, a bunch of drivers will decide to pit. It's likely that Cargo will leapfrog ahead of Retro, though, at the end of the race, and will end up finishing second in points, and Retro will fall to third. He'll be right there behind Cargo, and he will try and make something happen. He has DRS on the straight, and this is exactly what he's going to do. He's going to utilize it to try and overtake multi-race winner in Cargo. Cargo not going to fight back too hard because he knows that he'll have DRS going on to the next straightaway. And there it is. It's in his DRS is in his favor, but he's not able to keep up quite with Whippy. The Red Bulls seem to be very well set up today. Retro gets back in front of Snake for 10th now. And Tone has to pit. And that's going to take the Ferrari out of the top 5. Might even hurt him more than that. So Waldo automatically takes the lead back and will walk off to his championship. Extremely fast pit stop. Tone, I'm guessing, doing a 2-stop strategy, medium, soft, soft. He's third. And only was in there long enough to just put new tires on. Oh, and Boothie! His car has gone around. Coming out of the second to last corner. No damage to the car, but he's going to drop out of the points paying positions. Cargo is pitted as well. I thought Cargo was going to try and push his softs to the end, but no, Cargo has to pit. The tires were just 2 more on the top car. He's going to come out right in front of Boothie here. But now Cargo needs to try and make up as many positions as he can, so that way he can hopefully get ahead of Retro in the points. The battle is now, what should have been a championship battle, is now just a battle for second in points. Snake right there behind Retro. He's putting a lot of wear on him, and Retro has also locked up his front tires a bunch of times here. Here comes Snake. He's going to have one of his best shots to make a move on the racing point here. He's looking on the outside, neck and neck for the position. And he got it. Ozda, meanwhile, is trying to work on Herbie. Herbie, involved in that opening lap incident, has circled back around. He's in the top spots. However, he's going to nearly spin out right in front of Ozda. That had to be terrifying. And now these four are all going to have a little bit of a DRS train on each other. But Ozda, unless they change something on the front wing so he can get a little bit better speed on the straightaways, Ozda's not likely going to be able to overtake Herbie. Scold fastest lap 137.632. Oh, and he's fighting with Retro. Oh, and look at them, and that's contact, and now Retro is going to get knocked off the circuit, and he has wing damage. And Retro's going to fall all the way to 10th. He's in contact multiple times in a row there on the straight. Meanwhile, farther up, this is the battle. Ozda, Snake, easily gained by Herbie, and now here comes Snake going to go on the inside of Ozda, neck and neck, and he's going to outbreak him without issue. What can Herbie do fighting back against these two cars that's gotten by him? He's got DRS on both of them. Ozda has DRS on Snake and the draft. He's close. Will he make a move? He's not able to make a move still. Retro has wing damage. Will he pit to repair the wing damage? He's currently 3 seconds ahead of Cargo, and he's in the points while Cargo is not. But as it stands right now, even if Retro pitted, he would be, just barely, but he would be ahead of Cargo still in the points, even if he did not earn points. The thing is, if Cargo finishes 8th or better, he will, and Retro doesn't get 8 points, he will end up ahead of Retro. So the question is, will Retro pit to repair the wing damage or not? Oh, he's going to have to pit. He's way off the circuit there, but he doesn't care. He's staying out another lap. Cargo's going to catch him. Herbie and Ozda continue their own little duel here. I'm sorry, Herbie and Scold. Ozda was going to see if he can do anything to Snake, but lag is starting to be an issue for his car. A little bit farther up in the field, though, Whippy has DRS on Jackson, and Jackson is on slower medium tires. They have a decent amount of wear on them. Whippy is going to make these soft slicks to the end. Whippy might be able to take a second position for the Red Bull here today. Meanwhile, Cargo is going to have DRS on Retro here going down these two straightaways. He makes a move. Nothing that Retro can do. Cargo is going to pop open that rear wing again on the straight, I imagine. No, it's actually not. It's actually Retro who's still going to have DRS. The DRS detection zone at the end of the straightaway is a little bit weird, considering that it detects them as the cars are sometimes side by side. That's one of the reasons why it makes the next straightaway so awkward. But Cargo is now up into 10th, and he needs to get into 8th if he wants to overtake Retro in points. Smith is finally back in the game. And look at this, Tome has caught Jackson as well. Whippy has gotten by Jackson, and Tome has now caught Jackson. So we could still see the Ferrari ending up on the podium. Likewise, his DRS on Whippy, and that's what he's going to use to try and stay ahead of the Ferrari. Tome doesn't care. He's going to send it to the inside. Under braking, neck and neck. Retro, another time penalty. And move the Ferrari up into the 3rd position now. Karros Jackson drops to 4th. And they're both a long way away from Torpedo, so Karros Jackson is likely still going to take 4th as long as he can just keep the tires. Look at Tome making a dive on Whippy here. With the DRS, he was able to get by 2 cars in 1 lap. So the Ferrari goes back into 2nd position. Meanwhile, Cargo, he's there. He's on the outside of Herbie. Herbie just knocks him right into the door and nearly punts him off the racetrack, but Cargo doesn't care. He's going to stay on. Cargo is now in the 9th position. His focus is now going to be on Skoll, who is ahead of him. Skoll has comparable tires to Cargo. Oh, that Williams gets sideways there coming out of that corner. Karros Jackson now losing touch with the cars ahead of him, especially Tome. He's still not too far off Whippy, though. He might be able to use DRS on the next straightaway to stay with Whippy a little bit longer, but I think Jackson, for all intents and purposes, his chance to gain a podium is gone unless something happens to the top 3. Whippy is still going to have DRS, actually, on the Ferrari ahead, but he's still losing because the Ferrari is just significantly faster around pretty much the entire circuit. Cargo is right there behind Skoll, will have DRS and will likely try and utilize that to get by Skold. Skold does not have DRS. Cargo a little bit slower gain onto the straight though, so it's not going to happen on this straightaway. He will close though. Retro is finally pitted for the damage, but for right now he would still be ahead of Cargo in the points. Cargo to get second, which should have been championship, but second in the points, needs to get by Skold. He's there, but Skold has been just a little bit better getting onto the straights than Cargo right now. Also of note, Skold is going to catch Ozda likely in the next lap or two. Ozda's pace has started to drop off significantly. If Skold gets DRS on Ozda, that means he's going to have even better defense against Cargo down the straightaways. This is the main battle right now. Can Cargo do anything to Skold, and can Skold catch Ozda? If they catch Ozda, it won't be too hard to overtake him, considering that machine, that Alpha Atari, has been set up purely for cornering ability. Skold's not going to have it this time. He's more than a second out from Ozda still. But Cargo had a better run onto the straightaway this time, and he will have DRS. But the Williams is a little bit better putting the initial power down, it seems, so the advantage is still going to go to Skold. Cargo is stalled out his forward momentum behind Skold now, and Skold will now have DRS on Ozda ahead of him. The best thing that Cargo can hope for is that Skold now can get by Ozda quickly, and then Cargo can get by Ozda shortly afterwards, because he does not seem to have what it takes to be able to get by the Williams ahead. Skold right there under that AlphaTauri. He's lagging all over the place. Onto the next straightaway, you can just see here on this normal straight, without DRS, the difference in speed isn't too massive, although Skold is still playing faster of the three. It's when you get to the DRS straight that's really going to come into play. All going to be within a second. Here comes Cargo to the inside! And he did it! He's by him, but they made contact! But he's by Skold, and now Cargo might be able to get DRS on Ozda on this straight. Yes, he does. He has DRS on the straight. He's more than a second out from Ozda, though. But Cargo's 8th. And now we look at the penalties. Cargo only has 3 seconds. Ozda has 6 ahead. So if Cargo just hold close to Ozda, he will still be ahead of him at the end of the race. Whippy now has a time penalty, and it's a 3-second time penalty with Carlos Jackson right up, so Carlos Jackson might be able to turn around and still take home third because he's right there behind Whippy, and Whippy's just earned himself a time penalty in the last 2 laps of the race. Cargo needs to find some way to get to Ozda as fast as he can, so that way if there is any penalty that gets applied to him post-race, like there has been for the last 3, he's going to be able to outrun it and still be ahead of Retro. Retro is not even in the points-paying positions. And if Fine Waldo hadn't gone on a mad tear these last few events, this battle for a championship would literally have gone down to the last lap here. Retro has caught Smish for 12th. The 12th place is 22 seconds out from Herbie. And 10th only has a 12 seconds worth of penalty, so it's not going to matter too much. Smish now has another 3-second time penalty. Cargo not close enough to make anything happen on Ozda. Where everyone is right now is where they're going to finish, with the exception of Whippy and Careless Jackson. As long as Careless Jackson is stay within 3 seconds of Whippy, he will take a podium position from the Red Bull. Meanwhile, out at the front, find Waldo, a driver who's honestly been on pace for X2. And it's made people wonder why he's in X3. He's going to easily walk home with a massive victory, a championship, and 5 wins in a row at the end of the season, all of them coming from the pole. Tone will come across second in the Ferrari. Whippy will be the third car across the line, but it's actually going to be the McLaren Careless Jackson who finally brings home a result that McLaren's deserved. Whippy will take home 4th. His teammate, Torpedo, will come home in the 5th position. 6th is going to be the Mercedes of Snake. A whelming finish for what overall has been an over and underwhelming season. Ozda will come home 7th. Ozda will come home 7th. Oh, Cargo actually ends up ahead of Ozda because Ozda had time penalty, so Cargo will finish 7th. Scholl will be 9th. Boothie 10th. Will round out the points paying positions. Herbie crosses the line 11th. Retro coming down the line should cross it 12th. And a driver who's been first or second in the championship points all season long will be 3rd in the end. Another time penalty for Retro Rixie at the line. That means that Smish is going to overtake him at the very end. Jail been significantly off pace. Will basically not really factor in whatsoever to the end. Alright, Waldo, congratulations. You win basically the entire end of X3, taking home near maximum points in all the final races. You pulled a Kimi Räikkönen and stole the X3 championship. Congratulations. Just want to say absolutely congratulations, Waldo. Pulling a 2007 Kimi Räikkönen and stealing the championship out from the 2 drivers who've been fighting for it all season long.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Oh, it feels so good. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Either way, now the question that we have is, will you be running X3 next season, or will you try to move up to another level?
I don't know. I'll go where I have to, I guess. You know, it's not up to me, is it?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But anyways, good job winning a ton of races in a row and coming out from nowhere to steal the championship from your teammate and from your team's rival. You've also locked up the team championship, the manufacturer championship last week, so fantastic season.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, mate.
All right.
Good.
And now we also have here in the broadcasting booth Retro. Retro, you led a chunk of the points for a good portion of the season, but in the end, it looks like 3rd is the best it's going to get for you. What do you have to say about this race and your season as a whole?
right. Well, there's your word from Retro. And again, to both of you wrapping up the Constructors Championship last week, congratulations. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that.
Well done, Retro. Thank you for this season.
Alright, well, we've not been able to get any word from Cargo yet. We anticipate that Cargo will have wrapped up second position in the championship by just the smallest amount, but that's the anticipation in our end if we've run the calculations correct where he finished at the end of this race. Yeah, and that will basically wrap up most of our broadcasts unless our normal co-broadcaster, XRL X3 wants to join the booth and share his view of the race, considering that, you know, that's been kind of his specialty over the last few weeks. Alright, it would appear that he's not going to join. So, our season for XRL X3 has come to a close. And in about 2 weeks' time, we'll start another X3 season. It will be a truncated, only 15-race season with only a few tracks involved in a randomized order. So that's what you can look forward to going forward. Yep. Nope, there's nothing. No one else coming in. All right, well, anyways, I've been SaneLeader13. This has been the XRL X3 series, and we have concluded our second championship season. Please stick around on the other XRL channel as X2 wraps up their season finale at the same track in about an hour's time. I look forward to seeing you all in about 2 weeks' time. Sayonara.